What's up, everybody? Thank you for being here for the Triple B TV live stream. We've got cool guests up for you on today, Mr. Justin Julander. He can correct me when he gets out from backstage later, but if memory is serving me correctly, he is at the Utah. Yes, University of Utah. That is definitely the correct state, and he's a PhD. He co-wrote the more complete carpet python with Nick Mutton. I met Justin for the first time, I believe it was back at the Herpeton event in 2019. Is that when that was? Oh, where'd the poster go? It's hanging back there behind one of those other posters. Yeah, but it should be a good time. Thank you guys for all being here live. We appreciate it. We got Lance, we got Russ, we got Amy, we got Clistia, we got Mr. Wickens eating chicken nuggets over there in Canada, and lots of other friends and family. Kenny, of course. Pickles and chicken nuggets, Mr. Wickens. Very, very nice. Yeah, thank you guys for coming. We got a little bit of time here for Justin, so we're going to get right into it. But thank you for being here again. Thank you to our sponsors, Freedom Breeder, Morph Market, and Redline, of course. Yeah, that's all I'm going to say for my monologue. We're going to get into this. You're watching Triple B TV. All right, ladies and gentlemen, here he comes. Mr. Justin Julander. What's up, buddy?
Hey, how's it going?
Thanks for being here again, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
This is the first time I made that transition from the monologue to the intro to the thing, and my guest could hear me right off the bat. So this is great. We're making progress.
Gotta love those technical difficulties. They always make it interesting.
Yeah, man. We're gonna try to have none today. If we have none today,
All right.
I'm gonna be like, but so far so good. Usually they've taken place already, and we still work through them. But we've had none, so I'm thinking we're not gonna have any. And I really wish I hadn't said that out loud.
Yeah, tempting fate.
Dude. So we were talking a little bit backstage. Now I don't want to be ahead of myself or take liberties, especially with the name of the podcast. But I didn't realize you had that podcast, and now as I think about it, I'm wondering if I'm actually allowed to talk about it or not.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that's the first rule. No, actually, we do the opposite. The first rule of Fight Club is tell everybody about it.
All right,
Reptile Fight Club. So,
all right, sweet.
yeah,
Let's talk about it because I didn't realize you were doing that. Sorry.
yeah.
Um,
No, it's all right.
but first, actually, let's give folks a little bit of background who don't
Mhm,
know you. You're obviously a reptile enthusiast because you're a professional virologist.
mhm.
You have a BS in virology.
So I've got a BS in microbiology and then a master's and a PhD in virology. I guess they call it bioveterinary science here at my university, and I have to correct you. It is Utah State University versus University of Utah, which is down in Salt Lake.
Oh,
So
they're two different places.
yeah, yep. So Utah State is the land grant institution for Utah. So each state has a land grant, and often they're called the Aggies, and as we are, and they focus on like agriculture and things like that. So we're actually in the animal, dairy, and veterinary science department, and so we get to hear a lot of seminars on cow metabolism and sheep feed and stuff like that. But so we're kind of a little bit misplaced as a virology group in there. I work for the Institute for Antiviral Research, and so we focus a lot of our studies on finding compounds or drugs that will treat viral diseases of people. So, yeah.
Wow, that's crazy stuff. I mean, do you work with Cal Poly? I mean, when I think cows in colleges, like Cal Poly down the road here, they have a pretty big ag thing. Do you guys work with them at all, or?
So like I think I'm sure some of my colleagues in the department collaborate. We don't really do much with the agricultural side. It's just that's why we're kind of a strange fit where we are. It was just when our the my predecessor who started the group, he started it and just ended up in that department because they had funding or a place to start him out or whatever. But we're all soft money, so we're not tenure track or anything. So and we're all research track, so we have to survive off of grants and contracts and things like that. So, but we've been pretty well funded over the last several years, and it's with COVID and all that crazy stuff, we've got kind of an increase in funding because people want to test their drugs against the virus, and so we do a lot of fee-for-service work where we'll test your compound to see if it has activity against the virus. So, yeah.
So how about your reptile keeping? Like, how did you get into reptile? This is going to be a two-part question. How did you get into reptiles? Like, what do you do today with reptiles, and how does your work have any overlap? Like the fact that you have that as a profession, does that overlap into your hobby of reptile keeping?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, like most people, I was into dinosaurs. I've always loved reptiles. I've always kind of kept an eye out for them. My dad used to take me backpacking a lot out in southern Utah, so I'd keep an eye out for a lizard. He'd let me bring home lizards and rattlesnakes or whatever. So I've just always had that drive, that bug that we all have, and it's still with me. So the plan was always to be a herpetologist, and so that was kind of what I told everybody when I was a kid. I'm going to be a herpetologist someday. My dad actually got me a herpetology textbook when I was in elementary school to kind of slow me down, or whatever. And that's the only book I read that summer. And he said I came back and had all my pets, like all their taxonomy mapped out, where they, what families they were from, and their genus and scientific, specific name and stuff. So I guess I've just always been excited about it and passionate about it, and it just never went away. So I kind of chickened out, though. I was going to be a herpetologist, but I saw that there weren't a lot of jobs in herpetology. And I kind of thought, I don't want to risk losing that excitement and passion and fun. And so I said, I'm going to keep it as a hobby and go into something else for my profession. So it could be my escape rather than my, work drudgery. Sometimes I don't, I'm not sure if that was the right choice or not, but because I just still, it fills my mind a lot of the time. And so I've kind of taken that and outletted it into different books or, different breeding projects and things like that. So I just really enjoy it. Yeah. So as most of us do, I suppose.
Sure. Now, so how does any of that how does any of your virology work or microbiology work
overlap
play into into the hobby?
Yeah, sorry, I missed that part of the
No, you're
question.
good.
So there isn't a lot of overlap, but I have recently had some overlap with some of the nidoviruses. They're called serpentoviruses now. They're kind of reclassified a little bit.
Oh, really?
But the one of the Carpet Fest, I believe it was the Southeast Carpet Fest, did a fundraiser for nidovirus research, and they raised about $15,000. And so they sent us a portion of that funding, and we did some antiviral work to see if we could identify some compounds that have activity against 3 different strains of nidovirus, one from a ball python, one from a green tree python, and one from the Antaresia children's python group. And we identified 4 or 5 different compounds that are used as antivirals to treat human disease. And so, they're available potentially to a vet. And so that's kind of like the first step. The first step is to identify activity. And this was all done in cell culture. We actually got the cell culture from the University of Florida. So we did a collaboration with them. They did some kind of preliminary studies with the cells and characterizing how the virus infects the cells and what kind of pathology it shows and such. And then they sent us the viruses in the cells, and we did the antiviral work to identify some compounds that worked. And we actually just submitted that paper for publication. And so we should have some idea if it's published. I believe it was maybe just accepted for publication. So I'm not the lead author on that. That was Robert Ossoboff or Oz as he goes by, down at University of Florida. And Stephen Tillis is he's a PhD student that's doing a lot of that work. And so Stephen is one of the lead authors. Dr. Osibov is the anchor author. And then so I'm one of the anchor authors as well. So I'm the second to last listed on the paper. But so yeah, that should be published soon, and I'll be able to distribute that to anybody that's interested to see, what drugs work. Now, it's got to be taken with a grain of salt, because we do see a lot of compounds that are active in cell culture that don't really pan out in the live animal. So I wouldn't recommend running out and getting these and having your vet treat your snake with these compounds, because some of them, like one of the compounds is ribavirin. It's actually an antiviral drug that's used to treat different human infections. It was actually used in combination with interferon to treat hepatitis C for a long time, but it does have some toxic side effects where it causes anemia if it's given over a long course of time. So it's used much less frequently these days for very severe diseases, which, a nidovirus infection might fall under that category. So hopefully it leads to further follow-up work. We need to generate more funding to get that work done and get a model using, a snake to experimentally infect the snake and then treat it with some of these drugs to see if they actually work in the live system.
Now, is that something that came across your plate just through your work, or did your interest in herpetology was part of the crossover there?
Yeah, that was based on my interest in herpetology and being kind of active in the carpet python groups and things like that. So they knew I was a virologist and I was also interested in carpet pythons. So when they raised the money, they said, "Hey, can you do any work on this?" And I said, "Well, I don't have those viruses and I don't have the cell culture system, but talking with the University of Florida group, they said, oh, we can send those to you and we can collaborate with you." So I believe some of the funding went to the fish head diagnostics that do the nido testing and things. And so I think they were the ones that hooked me up with the University of Florida group, if I remember right. So yeah, kind of I got to, mix my profession with my hobby, which was kind of a cool thing to be able to hopefully help, in some way help manage this problem of nidovirus infection in collections. Because really, if you get your snakes diagnosed, there's not much you can do other than kind of separate them from your other snakes, isolate them, or quarantine them, and it's kind of a lifelong thing. They may be carriers, they might die. So it's kind of a rough deal. I've heard of a lot of people that just euthanize anything that was nido positive. And so it's been a scary virus for a lot of people.
Yeah, no doubt. So yeah, nidovirus. So there's something that I saw pop up during COVID, and maybe you can put this to rest. It was like there's families of viruses, right? And forgive me, I'm a moron. And some people were correlating that there's this within the same family as COVID, nidovirus exists within a same family. Is that accurate?
To some extent, yeah, they are fairly closely related to the coronaviruses, and they are kind of housed under the same umbrella. So you're right in that regard. But not. I mean, and these are very interesting viruses. They're very large viruses. Some of the largest viruses known are these serpentoviruses are very large viruses. I think there's a few that they found that are larger, but they're some of the biggest viruses out there.
Okay, big as in you mean in size wise?
Yeah, the length of their genome. So a lot of the viruses I work with have genomes maybe 10 to 15,000 base pairs long, which is not that huge compared to the human genome, which is orders of magnitude larger. But these serpentoviruses are maybe 3-4 times that big, so they get up there, maybe even larger than that. So
wow. I mean, as a snake, I guess that makes sense. It's long. Sorry.
There you go.
How many strains of nidovirus are there?
There's quite a few, and they're finding more and more as they go. We know of obviously the 3 we work with were isolated from different captive settings, and they're all not that closely related to each other. If I understand correctly, I don't get into the taxonomy of the serpentoviruses very much, but just trying to think of what I remember reading and such. But they're identifying more and more as we go. There's that example of the nidovirus that was causing disease and death in shingleback skinks in Australia. So wild animals that were coming down with this viral infection, and they identified that as a different nidovirus or serpentovirus. And they keep finding more and more the more they look. So they're a pretty divergent group, and they're found in a wide range of species. So that's part of the problem, and part of the ongoing questions that need answering is, if it are the ones that are causing disease, say, in your green tree python collection, you have all your green trees dying of nidovirus. Was that originally from green tree pythons, or was it like from carpet pythons that jumped over to green trees and causes disease? Similar to, like, say, COVID, where it wasn't in humans until a couple of years ago when it kind of jumped species from either a bat or some other animal in the wild, and then now it's spread throughout the world, and now it's a human pathogen and kind of part of our daily life in some instances. So that may be the case with nidoviruses. These are just kind of hypotheses that I think about, thinking about these things. If because usually viruses, if they evolve within a certain group of animals or people or whatever, they aren't usually very pathogenic. They don't usually cause severe disease or death. It's usually when you kind of get spillover into a different species that hasn't co-evolved with them, then it causes some nasty outcomes. I guess an example of that would maybe be Ebola, where they figure that it's a bat virus, and bats have this super crazy high metabolism, and so the virus just has to hang on in the bat because their immune system will clear just about anything. So this virus is crazy, infective and aggressive, and it doesn't cause much disease in the bats, but when it spills over to people, man, it's scary, lethal, very quickly lethal. So just one of those things. Typically, as a virus co-evolves, and we see that maybe with COVID now, it's getting less and less severe as it kind of reaches an equilibrium in people, where before, we had like 3% mortality. We're much lower than that now. So
something just crossed my brain while you were saying that stuff, especially with the bats. That I know that sunlight kills just about everything eventually, right? Sunlight's very detrimental to things. Exposure to sunlight will kill viruses and whatnot. Maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's what I understand. Like how much do you think that plays into? I'm going off on a super hard tangent here. Sorry. I was thinking about bats and the fact that they're very nocturnal, spend most of their time in caves where it's wet and like moist, like just feeding ground or just like a place for things like viruses to thrive, I would think. Mm-hmm. Like how much does that play into how well they're able to process something like that? Then it crosses over to to humans who don't have that same metabolism. Anyway, do you see where I'm going with my train of thought here?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think I can maybe go off of that a little, but viruses are dependent on their host, so they have to infect our cells, get inside of our cells, and they actually hijack our cells and use our cellular machinery to complete their reproductive process. So they don't really have all the proteins it takes to make more of themselves. So they're an obligate intracellular parasite, basically, that has to utilize our cells to replicate themselves. And so that being said, they have different ways of being spread. A lot of the viruses I work with are transmitted by mosquitoes or other biting insects. And so, you're not going to like breathe them in or get them off a surface or something like that. But with, say, like an influenza virus or a coronavirus, you can transmit those through aerosols. You're coughing into the air, and the virus can persist in the environment for a given amount of time and be picked up by somebody either touching a surface or breathing that in. And further, pass that on. So it just depends on the virus. It depends on how they're transmitted. We think maybe that like Ebola, as people invade the wild and start chopping down forests or going into caves to harvest guano or whatever, for whatever reason, they're coming into contact with these viruses. And then, they're bringing them back to their homes or their village or whatever. And then they kind of can spread from there, but not always. I mean, we didn't know about COVID until or the SARS-2 or COVID-19 virus until very recently. And it's possible that it could have escaped from a lab. They could have been doing research in the lab and not known how easily it spread and things like that. I don't buy into the theories that they were engineering a virus to be really deadly, because it's so it's so counterintuitive of how this virus is put together and how it works that we just don't possess the knowledge to make that. And there would be different signals and signs if they're cutting and pasting viruses together and things. So it's from nature. Whether they were working on it in the lab and somebody got exposed and took it out of the lab in their lungs or something, it's difficult to say. And being China, those people probably were sent to reprogramming camps or euthanized or whatever they do, when something negative happens that puts them in a bad light. So I feel bad for those scientists, because there were some good scientists working at that lab there.
Yeah, no doubt. That's that is a scary thought. Government repurposing. Dude. So let's see here. Thank you for we got the big super chat in there. William Philippek really enjoys listening to Justin. Just a wealth of knowledge. I really couldn't agree more.
He's a cool guy. I like William.
Yeah, he used to jump on these a lot when we did these more regularly. He was a pretty regular staple in here. He's been a cool guy to have on these streams. I'm glad to see him back. So what was I going to ask next? Oh, the thing that we were talking about at the beginning, because we're getting down to our last few minutes here, the stream part, and then we'll go into the after party afterwards. So by the way, if anybody has any quick questions in the chat that they want to jump, I'll ask. But what is this deal with Reptile Fight Club? Tell me about it.
Yeah. So, I wanted to do a podcast, but I didn't want to do, the same thing that everybody else was doing with the kind of the interview and talking about their projects and stuff. So I thought, what can we do? I thought, we always see these arguments about different things in herpetoculture, and usually there's two sides to things. And a lot of times we take one side and we defend that and we think, oh, we know all the answers. But so I thought, what if we did a podcast like that, where we have two opposing sides, but you don't get to choose your side. That's determined by a coin flip. So you toss the coin, and then that determines who gets to pick their side, and then we just debate the issue. So you might be arguing for something you don't really believe in, but you have to find the pros for that argument, and to show that everything's kind of got two sides, and maybe they're more towards what you believe on one side versus the other, but you can still consider the other side and see the merit or the reasoning or rationale behind that. So we've been doing it for about a year, almost 2 years now. So in May, it'll be 2 years. And we try to get it out weekly, although that doesn't always happen. But we've had some fun guests on and had some interesting discussions and some good times. I co-host it with Chuck Poland, who's my buddy from way back. And so we have a fun time. He's hilarious and just a really fun guy. And a lot of times it's just us debating a topic, but we'll have guests on and let them debate one of us, and we'll flip the coin to see who gets to fight them and stuff. So it's pretty fun.
Dude, I love that so much. It's such a great I did something like that one time when I was doing live streams back during COVID with Clint from Clint's Reptiles, and I don't even remember what all the topics were. We just picked. I think we left it up to the chat, so it was like kind of like spur of the moment. We didn't have like somebody decide a topic, and I don't remember if we flipped a coin or what. But the idea was that kind of a similar idea. Like, you don't get to pick which side you're on this topic. You just have to argue for whatever side you're given. And all we really did is prove that Clint was a lot smarter than me and a lot better at debating. But I think we had something as ridiculous as like, is a hot dog a sandwich? I think that was one of the things. Like but it was, yeah, I love that idea, man. And Reptile Fight Club, I love that you
Yeah.
guys talk about it too. Because so what platforms is that available on?
I'm pretty sure you can get it on, a wide variety of platforms. I know, like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and things like that carry it. It's under the Morelia Python Radio umbrella. So we're
Gotcha.
one of the network podcasts with Eric and Owen and that whole crew. So you can, either I think you can just search Reptile Fight Club and it'll usually bring it up. So yeah, check it out. See what you think. If you have any ideas, shoot me a message. We'll get you on. We'll fight with you. So
All right, I love it.
yeah,
I love a
yeah,
good
it's
fight, man. Honestly. What? So I had another question stirring up in the back of my head. Oh, the book, of course, the book that
mhm.
it's been out for a bit now, but the more complete carpet python. Is there going to be a most complete carpet python?
Not, I don't know. Maybe not for a little while. It's a lot of effort, and so we had the first edition, and we pretty much doubled the size of the first edition to make the second edition, and we pretty much rewrote the whole thing. There's not a lot that made it from the first edition into the second edition, so it's a lot of work, and we tried to only have wild specimens in the first part in the natural history chapters to kind of show the diversity of appearances, and we also include like the figure number in the range map so you can see where that individual was found, the picture is of. So kind of fun. I copied the Barkers on that idea, but and then we added a field herping chapter because I love field herping and want to encourage people to get out there and look, see the stuff that they keep in a box, see them out in the wild, and go explore this cool world we have. And then there's we added the Owen Pelly chapter, and that's how one of your pictures made it in there. I'm
Stoked.
very jealous that you've seen an Owen Pelly python in the wild. That's a bucket list item for me. Someday I hope to repeat your success there. But yeah, that was a good year for finding Owen Pellies apparently, because you guys did, the Morelia Pythons crew did, Chandler he found one, or he and Ricky found one. So yeah.
It was wild. We kind of tried to keep it semi quiet, at least while we're still in the country, because like, apparently there's a lot of people that have been looking for them for a long time because they have such a small range, of course, and
Mhm.
a lot of locals that had never found one, local herpers that hadn't found them yet. And so we were like, part of me was like, all right, let's get out of here and then we could talk about it. I don't want to catch anybody too pissed off at me at a show or something. No, just kidding. Not really that worried about it, but it was pretty miraculous. Like I'll tell you, we were driving around and we had kind of given up for the evening. Like we are going to look for a place to park just outside of Kakadu to sleep in the little van
Mhm.
for the night. And like literally, we were probably like 50 yards from where we ended up pulling up next to this little rock, dry creek and sleeping. And right before
Yeah.
we got to that spot, there it was just stretched halfway across the road, man. So cool.
That's so awesome.
It
Yeah.
was
I
ridiculous.
that's just not a species that you road cruise usually either. So I mean, even luckier that way. You usually have to hike into their habitat and find them that way.
That's
So
what we had been doing all day long. That's what we
uh
just finished a full day of just like walking everywhere, seeing if we just trying to find one, and then
that's
there
cool.
it was on the road, dude. It's so just when it did that Somalia triple S neck back up at my knee, I was just like, woo! It was so exciting, dude.
Yeah, I think I
Oh,
wouldn't mind taking a bite from one of those. That'd be kind of worth it, like a badge of honor. How many
that
people can say they've been bitten by an Owen Pelly?
I was ready to. We both did like it did that full like brought his whole front of his body up the ground with the triple S. I brought
Hmm.
my knee up like Danielson style, just like okay, take the knee.
That's so cool.
Oh, it's good, man.
Yeah.
Well, shoot, we're about to head backstage here and do the after party. Is there anything you want to say to folks before we do that here in the public sphere?
Um, yeah, I thanks for listening. Thanks for tuning in and hearing me babble. But yeah, you can find the book either through Eco Publishing, Bob Ashley's place, or I can send you a copy directly. I'm running low on copies. I only have a few left. I got like 39 cases, and they've all sold out pretty much except for one or two. So yeah, it was. We really appreciate the support on your supporting the book, and I guess print media isn't dead yet. So keep it up, because books are great. So
Yeah, I don't want to see the end of books. I'd like
Yeah.
to be gone before that happens, if it happens.
If you want to see my collection, what kind of stuff I work with, and maybe if you have any interest in it, I may have some offspring available. Australianaddiction.com is my website, and you can find me on like social media, Justin Julander on Facebook, or JG Julander on Instagram.
What part of Utah are you in? I know you're at I forget them straight now. It's University of
Utah State University.
State University. What town is that near?
We're up at the very top of the state. So Logan is where the university is located. I'm about 15 minutes north in Smithfield, and we're about 15 minutes from the Idaho border, up at the top of Utah. So
Gotcha.
Yep.
Okay, I'll keep that in mind. I'd love to come check your collection sometime if it's the possibility. But
yeah,
awesome, man. All right, thank you, Justin. We'll see you backstage in just a moment, my friend.
All right.
Really appreciate your time.
Yeah, no worries. See you guys.
All right, everybody. Where am I? Why am I not? There I am. What's up, guys? Dude, so cool to have Justin on, man. Great guy, full of knowledge. We could obviously do this podcast for much longer than that, but with the amount of knowledge he has, we could go on and on, I think. But as you guys know, we're keeping these 30 minutes live because we're doing another 30 minutes behind the scenes backstage. If you want to join us for that, there's a link in the description, and we do them every week with our guests. Just something we've always done as long as for a long time, for years now we've done this. So great to have Justin on. And next week, we're actually going to have his co-author, Nick Mutton, on. Nick Mutton. Nick Mutton. That was a carryover from Hawaii. Nick Mutton. Nick Mutton will be on next week. So if you don't join us for the after party, we'll be a little bit sad. That's okay. You'll see you next week when we have Nick on, right back here on Triple B TV. Sound good? Sounds good. Y'all take care.